What's going on, Ambitious Vet? Welcome to episode number 68 of the Ambitious Vet Show with retired Marine, founder of Ridgeback Business Solutions, and Friends in Commerce, a veteran business network, Tom Daly. Welcome to the Ambitious Vet, where we believe if you desire more, you have to become more. My name is Chris Hoffman, Marine Corps combat veteran turned passion-driven entrepreneur. On this show, I dive into the trenches with today's top-performing military veteran thought leaders and subject matter experts to know not only what it takes to pay the bills after the uniform, but really make an impact. You're going to hear their stories, failures, and even some golden grenades that are going to empower you to execute on that next mission in your life. Are you ready to gain your 10 orders to mastering the inner game and finishing this year up bulletproof in 2019? The Ambitious Vet free 10-day Being Bulletproof Challenge, Mastering the Inner Game, is now live on Facebook, leading up to our Ambitious Vet 12-week signature program sponsored by First Command. I invite any of you guys that are looking to restore your passion for life, identify the 4 bullets that are derailing you in your life on a day in and day out basis you don't even know, and learn the hacks of thinking quantumly versus binarily, right or wrong in your life. I challenge you to click the link in the show notes below, join the free day challenge, and hell, if you get value from that, go ahead and jump into the sprint. Guys, there is a disclaimer, no trolls allowed, just leaders who are ready to gain the sniper focus necessary to living that meaningful and fulfilling life we all desire. Let's go get it. What's going on, Ambitious Vet? Welcome to episode number 68. As always, just want to say thank you for joining us and spending 45 minutes with us here on another weekly episode of this show. If it wasn't for you coming in here listening week by week, this wouldn't even matter. So just thank you for spending the only asset that we can never get back every single week with us. I promise you it's going to be well worth your time. On this episode, we got Tom Daly on the show. Who's Tom Daly? Well, Tom is a retired Marine, owner of 2 businesses, one Ridgeback Business Solutions, and the other one, a Christmas tree business called Fancy Fur Trees. Tom also works closely with veterans, their causes, and their businesses. Since retiring from the Marine Corps, Tom has spent 20 years working with companies of all sizes, helping them improve their talent, project management, business development, and or just improving the efficiency of their business. Tom is a big believer in the value veterans bring to the business community and has created Friends in Commerce, a group where veteran executives and business owners can network and assist each other. Tom has been happily married for close to 40 years, and his wife, Eileen, are the proud parents of 5 children and 9 grandchildren. So they're busy. They got an army that they're leading, guys. And if you're listening to this, I want you to listen to this. I want you to be listening for this specific thing. And really what that is how Tom articulates spending 20 years in the United States Marine Corps as a commissioned officer, the tools that are right there in front of us when we get out of the uniform that we just are not utilizing. And it's funny how that works in life, right? Sometimes we just don't realize what's actually in front of us that we could be leveraging to create more opportunity, increase our decision making, and improve our conflict management skills on a day in and day out basis inside the trenches. Well, guys, don't take it from me. I want you guys to learn from these sacred golden grenades from Tom Daly. Let's go ahead and dive right into the trenches. Let's go get it. All right, Tom Daly, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing, buddy?
Oh, man, I'm doing great, man. Welcome to the Ambitious Vet Show. We're absolutely blessed to have you here. Go ahead and fill in the gaps inside the introduction and let us know a little something about people that most people don't really know much about you, Tom.
Yeah, so a lot of people know me as a business owner of a consulting firm. Others know me as a retired Marine, retired from the Marine Corps 20 years ago. But a lot of people don't realize that I started off in the Air Force. I was an enlisted guy in the Air Force, did 4 years, and really was exposed to just some tremendous leadership. I was 17 years old. My mother would not sign the papers for the Marine Corps. So, my cousin had just joined the Air Force, and I just followed in his footsteps. He was like my big brother. and it just turned out to be a phenomenal decision because there, my NCO was the NCO of the year. My squadron commander was just this big old West Texas guy that's just a tough football player, and he just didn't take any garbage. And our base commander was a POW for 5.5 years.
Hmm.
So that was a guy that knew, the reality of leadership, and I had just tremendous leadership that I really admired and looked up to, and informed me as a military member. Another thing people don't know about me is that I actually own a Christmas tree business. So people think of me as owning, a consulting firm or a recruiting company over the years. But what a lot of people don't know is I own this Christmas tree business, and I was brought in by a retired Navy Master Chief. So he was in the reserves, and he was a very, very successful businessman that had retired. And I met him, and 13 years ago, we started doing this together. He'd done it for a few years already. And that man taught me a lot about business. Really taught me a lot about business. Tremendous mentor. Tremendous mentor.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Santa Claus is coming to town, so everyone needs Christmas trees and stuff like that. So that's awesome. It sounds like you've definitely leveraged a key principle that we talk about a lot on this show, is really just finding a core mentor to kind of pour the clear water inside your dirty Dr. Pepper. Sometimes that clears you up to stay healthy and in action in your life. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
sometimes you're just blessed.
Yeah, sounds like it. So, I want you, one thing that I just recently went through over here in my own life was a huge life pivot, right? In January 6th, I got into a near fatal car accident and wound up, walking away from a 6-figure sales trainer role inside of a real estate market, real estate industry where I was, really building out sales programs and stuff like that for two inside sales teams and 2 inside sales companies. And that was not an easy decision for me to walk away from the vision that they were giving me, and stuff like that. On like, wow, you're going to be turning around companies that we buy inside this orb, right? And one thing that I was doing research on you, which I do research on every single person that comes on the show, is like, you were a Marine officer that was on the brink of being promoted to lieutenant colonel, and really getting to that next level of leadership inside the Corps. Hoorah. And you made a decision, despite the prosperity, all the stability, everything in front of you, to wind up walking out of the Marine Corps uniform and become a president of another company, a complete other industry. Can you kind of walk us through that decision-making process and why you actually made that decision, Tom?
Yeah, no, I was actually very, very happy with my career. And because I had 4 years prior enlisted time, I came up for lieutenant colonel right at the 19-year mark.
Yeah.
And right at the same time, some people that I knew that were out in the corporate world started talking to me about retiring at 20 years. And I said no, a few times, and then they just were persistent. And finally I said yes. I just gave into the pressure, and I literally shook for 3 days. And I was like, why am I leaving such a good thing? I know I'm going to make lieutenant colonel. I'm teaching Marine captains expeditionary operations and amphibious planning. And the next step for me, I was already selected for command staff college. Why would I leave something good where I was on a great path like that? I loved leading Marines. I really did. But for me, I'd noticed when I deployed in 1994, I was a company commander, and the SEAL platoon commander, our rooms right next door to each other, so we get to know each other pretty well. And he ended up getting out because he got promoted to 04 and did not, as he said, ride a desk. And I never really looked at it that way, but I'd been a staff officer once already, and I didn't like it. And I knew that as I went up in rank, that life outside the infantry battalion was not going to be as fun as life inside the infantry battalion. So I guess I was like just pretty susceptible to it. So when they came hunting for me, it really made me think, what are my personal goals and what are my professional goals? And I realized that if I made colonel, if I was lucky enough to make colonel, I could have been a regimental commander or a MU commander. And if anything was over that, great. But then I started looking at what was the price I was paying. And my twins, they were going to be leaving the house pretty soon. They were close to college age. And but then I started looking, and I realized that if I stayed in another 10 years, that my youngest would be 18 and walking out the door in the same month I hit 30 years old.
Hmm.
And when I realized that, I was like, it's time to go. I mean, it was just, that clear to me.
Hmm.
I think I only really made one big mistake, and that was I didn't discuss it with my wife. I just told her, honey, I'm retiring, and it didn't go over too well. And
Uh,
I was reminded of that for years to come. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I totally got that. But it sounds like in the end, it all worked out. And more importantly, I mean, it sounds like you made a decision based on what mattered most to you, which was family and,
Yeah.
being able to be there for, your family consistently long term and stuff like that. So, I mean, I was reading on your background. I mean, you've been able to lead in places people would only imagine to lead with infantry teams and stuff like that. So I mean, it sounds like you did get a lot of the experience as far as being, a commissioned officer, high ranking and, really leading teams. So it sounds like you got that bug kind of smashed inside, right?
I did, but I've never regretted my decision to retire.
Mm,
Never. But I did miss the Marine Corps. I really did.
yeah.
And I was self-employed for a number of years, and then ended up. I actually drifted into disaster recovery work. So I remember after being on my own for a few years, going to lead recovery efforts on Long Island for Hurricane Sandy recovery. And man, it just felt great being part of a team again. And it surprised me. It really surprised me a lot. A lot of challenges there, but when you look at how, especially Marines and probably many other service members, you're trained for rapid response. I mean, that's in your DNA, and you never thought that it'd be a hurricane or something like that. So I ended up going out on the BP oil spill, the Hurricane Sandy, some other hurricanes. Rode out Hurricane Harvey. That was an experience. The bird flu, and it's just you get out there and it's just like you were developed for this type of
Mm.
stuff. You don't realize it, but you were. And it's just I'm convinced that there's no greater professional development program than what the U.S. military has. How it
Mm.
develops its leaders. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. I know it took, for me personally, it took me from an alcoholic and not knowing how to lead by example to my younger siblings to, being someone that, my brother actually followed my footsteps, joined the United States Army, not the Marine Corps. I mean, but hey, he's still doing it, right? So it is like, it helps you develop your leadership skills, communication skills in ways that you could only imagine. So, Ambitious Vet, if you're watching this inside the group, inside the tribe, or if you're listening on this podcast, I want you guys to be listening for an area of your life that you could be making better decisions based on what matters most to you in your life. And what are the intangibles that you've been able to develop inside your respected military branches? So, Tom, back to you. I mean, how did you start finding traction whenever you got out of the uniform?
Yeah, sure. My I remember as a kid, my grandfather one time saying, "Learn from those who have gone before you," and it just stuck. I mean, it
Mm,
really stuck. And so when I retired, I was like, "What am I going to do?" I mean, I knew nothing about business. It turned out I knew a lot more about business than I figured. I mean, the military really, really trains you well in how to lead and manage.
mm,
Uh, and so I might not have known, financial bookkeeping or accounting and finance, things like that. But as some other really smart business leaders have said, don't ask how, ask who. Who does know that stuff. And
yeah.
it goes back to like when you were a second lieutenant, you find out what NCOs knew their game, and you pick their brain, and that's how you learned. I
Mm,
mean, there was so many lance corporals and corporals that really helped me learn things, how to do them the right way and all that. And that sort of reminded me back when I was in the Air Force, my NCO was NCO of the year, and all the lieutenants would come up and ask him questions. Now they were getting paid twice as much as him, but he was the guy with all the answers,
mm.
and that sort of was what motivated me to go to college. Is just the quest to learn more.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds like for you, how you gain traction is this consistently looking for knowledge, being hungry for it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there was one book that really helped me a lot, and I think looking back was probably a cornerstone for any entrepreneur, and it's called The E Myth.
Mm,
And I think it's The E Myth, Reasons and How to Avoid Failure, or something like that. Or now it's called The E Myth Revisited. But it's written by a guy by the name of Michael Gerber,
mm,
and he emphasizes how to work on your business, not in your business. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge that entrepreneurs have is how to break out of doing it all themselves. Or I think you called them the other day solopreneurs. You know, how do you break out of that by doing it all yourself? And that gets back to something I heard Russell Brunson say once before. Think not how, but who, and you start going back and developing that team again. And
Mm.
as you know, the team is stronger than the individual. So you start building that team and the tribe and all that, and keep moving on. So um, going back and referencing certain books have always been helpful to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. When do you know to go back and reference books? Is there like a challenge, a problem that you hit? Um, to
I think
walk
it's
us through that process.
yeah, sure. It's just a quest. I don't know.
Mm.
Somewhere along the line, I got this quest for knowledge,
Yeah.
and not. I mean, back when I was a kid, or when I was a lieutenant or a captain, whatever. History was always on my mind, but somewhere along the line, it changed, and I really love listening to books on tape. I drive a lot, so I'll listen to Napoleon Hill. I mean, what a great book. Michael Gerber. There's just some great books out there where people talk about things that are relevant. So and
Mm.
how to improve your business. Right now, I'm listening to General Mattis with Call Sign Chaos. I mean,
Mm.
just when you start listening to some of these great leaders talk, there's a lot to be learned. So there's always something that you can pick up from a book just about every time. So I just try to take in as much as I can.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, would you say that's like one of the number one things that is stopping, veterans that are getting out to becoming more and building their human capital and creating more opportunities in life? Do you think it's their lack of pursuit of knowledge, or what would you think?
For me, I mean, I observed it firsthand. I mean, I had literally the NCO of the year as a boss who was just a phenomenal guy. I ended up loving him like a brother. I mean, he really had tremendous impact. And my first year in the Air Force, I gained 40 pounds, weightlifting, eating like a wild man, and acting like a wild man at times as well. And he just sort of took me under his wing and said, "Hey, you got to grow up. This is how you do it. I'm going to train you to be just like me." I mean, he literally said that to me, and just I look back as a leader and the foresight that he had on how to develop me was just great. And then he was backed up by the squadron commander who I actually called him up 30 years after I got out of the Air Force, and I tracked him down. He was in West Texas, and I tracked him down and said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I was this guy that," and refreshed his memory and told him about the times that I would have Marines come in front of me for NJP, and I would lean back and say, what would Colonel West do? And just
Mm.
how he handled me. So it gets back to that old adage, learn from those who've gone before you, and just keep asking yourself that question. What have others done? How have they handled it?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, going back to Napoleon Hill, Think and Go Rich, that's one of the best books that I know for myself, I consistently reference. And there's a key principle inside the book where he has like a round table that he goes into his imagination around people that he constantly references and asks, okay, what would this person do in this situation? This person was known for this. Well, how would they do that? And having like a round table in your mind before you make decisions. And I think that's a pretty cool way to go about it. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think in reality, there's very little new stuff that's being developed all the
Mhm.
time. It's somebody thinking of what somebody else had done and
Yeah.
how to do it a little bit better.
Yeah, that's so good. Just leaning on wisdom in Nero's time frames. I love it. So, one of the books that you knocked me for not knowing about the other day, which I can definitely be responsible for, but I was a resourceful enlisted Marine, and listened to the commissioned officer, which we did a lot of inside the uniform, and I went and looked up the MCDP-1 Marine Corps Warfighting Philosophies book, where you guys can find literally on Google. It's a 19-page document around what are the philosophies that fill and prepare our mindset for war fighting. And Tom, just to go back to you, I mean, how do you think we can apply this in our lives as ambitious vets looking to become more in our lives, careers, and our businesses?
Yeah, sure. It's a great question, actually. And if you look back into that book, there's basically four, I don't want to say chapters, but four sections to it: the nature of war, the theory of war, preparing for war, and the conduct of war. all four of those are directly applicable to business, all four of them. And I never realized it until I had retired and I was president of this company and I was approached by a CEO of a public company. And he had said, I want to develop this leadership development program where you can go out and recruit people of a certain profile. This is what I'm looking for, and I can train them in the staffing industry. And so we had lunch a couple of times, talked about it. And somewhere along the line, I said, "Hey, listen, if you really mean what you say, then you have to understand this book." And I gave him a copy of, at that time, it was called FMFM1, Warfighting. And that is the number one publication. That's where you start everything with. It's Warfighting in the Marine Corps. And so he took it home. He read it, and that night, he read it. And the next day, we get together for lunch, and he holds that book up and he says, "Listen, this book is all about business. Business is just like this." And he goes, "You get me as many guys as you know that think and act like this." He goes, "I'll train them in my industry, but you find these guys and get them for me." So next year and a half, I found him 55 guys.
Wow.
Not just guys, but 55, prior military members that thought and acted that way. And that was 20 years ago. And the first person that, one of the people in the first class that we recruited for just retired as a C-level officer.
Wow.
So, yeah. I mean, so he basically stepped out after 20 years, a prior enlisted Marine that was on the drill field, got out, went to college, wrestled in college, came back as an infantry officer, proud of his 8th Marine days, and retired. And then, he ended up just stepping in, and a lot of other members did very well in the company as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that was whenever you were doing recruiting, because now with Ridgeback Management Services LLC, you're hitting a lot of different business problems with this company that you're rocking and rolling with. And that was back when you were kind of building up the recruiting side. And it's crazy that you were leveraging a tool that was right there in front of us when we were in the Marine Corps, and just leveraging the tools that you already had and just repurposing them in there and creating the effectiveness that you had was extraordinary.
Yeah, I think we take for granted what we learned in the military. We don't realize how applicable it was. And the person that I referenced before, he and I would talk on a daily basis while he was working at that company, and we were both astonished at the dysfunction, the chaos, the lack of organization. This was a public company.
Yeah.
But it was just so active and just so much on the go. It was constant execution. And as an operator, you can appreciate that. So when you think about it, how do you stop? How do you pause, reset, and then go again? You figure you do it all the time in military operations. So there's a lot of parallels there that I found to right on the mark.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think I think you're talking to the perfect, tribe. The best audience here is, I think, with Ambitious Vets, we're always looking just consistently. Actually, I know in my own life, I'm always looking on how do I just get shit done, be more efficient, more effective. And how do I keep going in spite of bullets, like indecision, fear, self-doubt, stuff like that just naturally comes up when you're out of the uniform. You don't got your fire team to left and right side of you. So, having a resource to teach you, how to pause, how to reset and get back into the fight, I think is something that could really help a lot of ambitious vets that are, trying to get going and gain traction consistently in their life. I think that's a great resource.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, it's the way we're developed, and you just fall back on what you know usually. And I really think that we were developed well. I was fortunate. I referenced the leaders that I had in the Air Force, but as good as they were, I'll be honest with you, I don't think they was as good as the ones I had in the Marine Corps, because if I started rattling off some of the names that I worked for, a lot of people would recognize them. They were just that strong of a leader. And and you become a part of them. When you are under them and learn from them, you really pick up a lot of what they say. And one thing I can say is that my days as a leader, as a second lieutenant, were much different as my days as a leader, as a major. You're just constantly growing and developing, and it's just a constant process.
Yeah, that's so great. That's awesome. So, Tom, tell us about Ridgeback Management Services LLC. What are you doing there?
Sure. That has sort of been an outgrowth of many years of work. So, um, I talk about the constant quest to learn how to do things better. And I remember probably about close to 20 years ago, I saw this advertisement of this athletic girl wearing sports attire, sitting on a mountain with a laptop on her knees. And the takeaway was you can work anywhere and do anything that you want at any time. And I've never forgotten that, obviously. And that sort of is in line with Tim Ferriss with the 4 Hour Work Week on how you build your life. And my wife and I, we have 5 children, and they're spread out all over the country. 3 of them were Marine officers. One fought in Ramadi, another was in the Gulf, and then my daughter was in Afghanistan. So, we are very, very blessed to also have 9 grandchildren. And so we are always trying to get out to see where they're at, be grandma and grandpa and all that stuff. But, in order to do that, you have to be able to work, in order to do that. So I have purposely structured my business so that I have built a team that can assist business owners and other business executives with the types of solutions that we can provide that they can't provide them on their own. So, for instance, I think it was Jim Collins from Good to Great has a quote: "Great vision without great people is worthless," or something like that.
Mm.
But it's true. It all begins with people. So I started as an officer selection officer in the Marine Corps in the late '80s, and really liked it, enjoyed it, and I was on college campuses all the time, looking to bring really, really good people into the Marine Corps to lead. And little did I know that 10 years later I'd be doing that as a profession, and enjoying it. So that is just something that stayed along the line. I've really always had a great appreciation for strong talent and developing that talent. In addition, what I found is there's a lot of people that just don't know how to market, and as a result, we're in the process of actually putting together a 6-step process of how to build a real focused marketing system. We expect that to be done in the next month or two, building out the appropriate funnels to feed those marketing leads into, as well as developing lead generation. So, as a matter of fact, I'll be putting together a beta test group to walk through that before we release it. So,
Yes.
yeah. So we're working on that line, and I guess the third practice area that we have is leadership consulting, because what I've found is all 5 of my children have done very well. And when I speak to them about their career progression, in the military, what you're supposed to do next. You know where you're supposed to go. Okay, what types of jobs? If you're a performer, okay, man, I'm going to the drill field. I'm going to recruiting. I'm doing this or doing that. It's not really the same in the corporate world, I've found. You sort of have to figure that out on your own. And what you end up having is a lot of leaders that are in positions that they sort of just ended up there. And they don't know how they got there, and they don't know really the relationship between planning and operations and planning and execution. And so we sort of help them out. So we do, all things from business development to project management to special programs. We go in, we follow something we call assess, decide, and act. We sit down, listen to what's going on, have a few discussions, decide, and then act upon it. So
yeah,
really the 3 primary areas.
Yeah, that's awesome. One, you better let me know when the beta version of that 6-step process is. I'd love to be a part of it, because I know for myself, love creating content, developing content, building strategic partnerships. But one thing that even I lack over here and building what we're building here is a marketing platform. Self-promotion is hard for us. So let me know. Would love to get in that. And ambitious vets, if you're listening to this or you're watching this inside the tribe, if you want to be a part of that, say I'm ready in the comments below, or please email Tom in the show notes inside the podcast, so you can reach out to him, so you can be a part of that beta version and start learning how to get your voice heard in your next mission, become more effective and more efficient. So Tom, we have a tradition here, man. 3 golden grenades, right? What are 3 golden grenades you're going to drop in on us right now to blow our minds and help us, make immediate impact in career, life, and business? What would those be?
Sure. You asked me that earlier, so I wrote them down. So hope you don't mind I reference that. But I think the first one is believe in yourself. And a lot of people just really never get out of the gates because they don't think that they can do it. And if you look at the beginning of NCDP 1, there's a quote, and there's actually a couple of quotes in there, but one of them is, "In war, the chief incalculable is the human will," by B.H. Liddell Hart. And, it says it all right there. I mean, if people don't believe in themselves, you
Mm.
know, they haven't even shown up for the race.
Mm.
The second one really is a lot of people try to just jump in and start executing right away, and they make a lot of mistakes,
Mm.
lose capital and lose credit, whatever. And really, so step number two, I think, the second grenade is believe or plan. And even if you go to NCDP 1, it discusses in chapter 3 preparedness, how to prepare for war. Excuse me. So in the military, we talked about orders, but in business, you talk about planning and business plan, marketing plan, so on and so forth. But if you literally just put together something along the SMEAC format, situation, mission, execution, admin, logistics, and command and control, you basically have the majority of the basics covered. And you've got a framework, and in there you start working on your budget and everything, and you start really identifying some shortfalls, and maybe laying out various stages or whatever, and then is it event oriented or time oriented, and you only get that by sitting down and putting together a plan. So for instance, quite some time ago, um, I went to lunch with this guy. He owned his own small business, and I literally, after lunch, we were talking about how he could move his business from $150,000 a year home to, literally $1 million homes that he could build. And I taught him at the time what we call the 6-step planning process in the Marine Corps. And it's really how you take an organization, you receive mission, and you're executing 6 hours later. And I laid it out to him, and little did I know that he and his partner went to Vegas, spent the weekend in Vegas. They never planned before. Follow that planning process. And today, that guy builds $5 million, $10 million homes, and there's some notable New York Yankees who had him as a builder.
Wow.
And it was literally just he knew what he wanted to do. He just didn't know how to get there.
Mm.
And I ran into him about 10, 15 years later, and he reminded me of that conversation and said, "You thought I forgot?" And I was like, "No, no," but he's the one that reminded me. So plan. And there's just story after story of people that failed because they weren't properly prepared.
Mm.
And then I guess grenade number three would be, really just the basic, but so many people don't do it. They run out, they try to build a business and get rich, and they totally forget about cash flow. I mean,
Mm.
you must establish cash flow first. If you don't have cash flow, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you can have the best product in the world, but if you can't support yourself, that product's not getting out to the street. So
Mm.
establish cash flow first, and then start wealth building after that. So those are my three golden grenades.
They're great. They're good. They're great. I mean, it's amazing. I think throughout this, I know the ambitious vets are going to comment below and kind of give you some feedback, probably through the podcast. But I mean, it's a deep desire for more knowledge and gaining what is the next thing to learn, but also the tools that are already there, and just falling back on that is, I think, the biggest thing that I'm leaning on throughout this whole conversation, Tom. And it's grounding, it's humbling, and it's also like, wow, it's back to the basics. It's always back to the basics on getting out there and creating success. And it's just a constant reminder of that. So thank you for reminding all of us that it's just getting back to the basics.
Absolutely, it is.
So, Tom, how can the Ambitious Vet Tribe and audience know more about you? Where can they go and find more about you?
Yeah, just go to our website, ridgebackbusinesssolutions.com. You can reach me through the contact us page, or you can email me directly at info@teamridgeback.com.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, Tom, I just want to go ahead and acknowledge you for, who you are for our community, man. I know you're in the hotel room, traveling, doing what you do, which is providing great solutions to businesses wherever you're at in the world. And I just thank you for who you are, what you did inside the Marine Corps uniform, and for you to just take this 40 minutes to just kind of dive in and give us young guns that are out there looking to make it happen the wisdom that we need to keep moving forward. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been an honor, and I really do appreciate it. I think vets helping each other is key. And Just if you don't mind, if I can put a little plug in for our group on LinkedIn, it's called Friends in Commerce. And that's really, that group is built along two books. If you look at Sebastian Junger Tribes, as well as Networking with the Affluent and Their Advisors by Tom Daly. It's sort of a correlation of the two, where vets come together, business owners, executives, and really try to help each other out in challenges that they have, or just trying to find out people that could help them, with a particular issue, or whatever. So Friends in Commerce on LinkedIn.
It's awesome. I'll have the link in the comments below and in the show notes. So they'll definitely be able to reach out to that. Thanks for supplying that resource, Tom. Well, there you have it, Ambitious Vet, episode number 68 of the Ambitious Vet Show. Now, if you're ready to discover your strengths and uncovering the obstacles that are preventing you from living a life of restored passion, purpose, and clarity to just get your shit done, I want you to make one or two decisions right now. I want you to go to vettrainingcoaching.com, one, to apply for the Ambitious Vet Sprint to equip you with the tools and the framework you're going to need to execute on what matters most in your life. Second decision, if you're not quite ready to make that commitment, I completely understand. Click the link in the comments or the show notes below and join the 10-day free 10-day challenge, being bulletproof, mastering the inner game. There's a lot of ambitious vets getting some major breakthroughs and major clarity on how to conquer that next challenge in life. Now, if you haven't already subscribed, rate, or reviewed the podcast, go ahead and do that. That's going to bring more people into our network for you to connect with and expand your impact in your life. And also, if you want to email us, the email will be in the show notes below to give us any feedback necessary that we can improve and bring even more value into your life. As always, if you're listening to this, I know that you're warrior made, but to become passion driven, utilize this one golden grenade you heard today, and you're going to find your life being more meaningful. Let's go get it.